all of our sin, and either you're going to pay for it or Jesus paid for it, whichever. But it's true about our lives, folks. Whatever we invest in this life, there's going to be a payday. Whether that payday is a loving family, whether that payday whether that payday is ruin, whether that payday is total catastrophe. This life as well as in eternity. Now come back to this. The ship prospers for a while. They sailed all the way across the Mediterranean. Tarshish. Is that where Paul was from? No, that was Tarsus. Tarshish is where Jonah was headed. It's what we now think of as Spain, Portugal, that region. Jonah was going there because that was as far as they could imagine going and still be in the civilized world. This example is there to show that they had sailing ships, either from Tarshish coming their way or them going that way. They had sailing ships going and finished goods. But it mentions some others that I didn't put on the outline, but verse 13. Javan, Tubal, and Meshach. Some of you that are into end times prophecy stuff, where are those places? Meshach, Moscow, Russia. That's as far north as they could imagine. But they had trading with what we now think of as the Russian was. But it talks about Arabia and merchants from Eden. They figured out where Eden was. Sheba, that's Africa. Folks, they were trading with everybody. Their business was importing and exporting. They brought in raw materials, like it speaks of from Tarshish, with silver, iron, tin, and lead. They brought in raw materials. They brought in the wool from other places. They brought in the flax to make, not the way we have them now, is handwork, but factories that made things out of all this raw material. And that's what they sent back out. Nearly every nation in the known world at that time, their commerce passed through Tyre. What's the financial capital of the world right now? You know this. Why did they crash planes into the World Trade Center? Why did they crash planes into the Pentagon? And why were they trying to crash a plane into the White House? Commerce, military, and government leadership. Folks, I don't want to make too big a thing of this, but the financial capital of the entire world is New York City. They are Tyre of the modern day. Which is a little scary. Hang on to that. Verses 26 to 36. And again, we won't read the whole thing, but verse 26, your rowers have brought you onto the high seas, but the east wind has wrecked you into the heart of the sea. Your wealth, merchandise, and goods sink into the heart of the sea on the day of your downfall. And the countryside shakes. Come on down to Paul, that you have become an object of harbor and and will never exist again. They built their ship in pride. They have sailed their ship, commerce everywhere, until one day the ship sinks. Now, it's allegory. Remember that. The ship is the conquering of the city of Tyre. It says there that the east wind, that in 25 or 6, has wrapped you. So the picture is that a hurricane's coming, and I don't know if you've ever been on a ship in a storm, but you can't go parallel. You can't run away from it. You have to nose in to the storm. That is your only hope. So he paints that picture here that the sailors sailed them into the hurricane. That means they took on every enemy that came against them, and it worked for a long time, didn't it, folks? Nations around them, when they got to the walls of Tyre, they were stymied. They were stopped right there. They could proceed no further until the east wind. Babylon came. Why is Babylon described as the east wind? Because the city Babylon is almost due east. That's a long distance, but almost due east of Tyre. They came, technically, from the southeast, having finished off Jerusalem and Judea. Now they go north, from the southeast to the northwest, to Tyre. But the east wind came. The picture here still, go back to an actual ship. The hurricane's out in the ocean. They're sailing into it. And what happens? Suddenly the east wind hits them from behind and destroys them. They're focused on all their commerce. Even though times may be troubled out there, they're focused on their commerce when the east wind whips in and demolishes them. Now, remember from last week we talked that this is not the final destruction because they didn't destroy the island out there, the artificial island, because in the process of the siege, it took Babylon several years to finally break through and destroy. In the process of the siege, they tore the causeway out to prevent the soldiers from going all the way across out into the island. But the east wind has hit. They have destroyed the mainland city, not a stone stacked upon another stone. And what does it say last week? They took it down to the rock, and it's worth nothing now except spreading